Hi, this is David at MASH IT. Today we're doing a review of the Alienware M17 R3. This is Alienware's slim and light 17-inch laptop for 2020. It's the M17-inch R3 and this is the i7 10th generation Intel 6-core CPU, and this is the 2060 model with 6GB of GDR6. It's also got 16GB of RAM and it came with a 512GB SSD. Let's take a look at this laptop. So it's a 17-inch slim and light. It's probably a little bit longer than other slim and lights like the Razer Blade Pro, because what you do have is this exhaust vent at the rear. Now this is the new Alienware design for 2019 and 2020 with the nice honeycomb sort of grills. It's a really nice look. It's a sleek. It's reasonably heavy, but it's solid and compact. But still, for a 17-inch laptop, you can pick it up with one hand and heft it around. So looking at the ports, on the left side, we have a vent, followed by an RJ45 with sort of a folding out flap because it's quite a compact laptop, a USB 3 and a headset jack. And if I spin it round to the other side, we have a micro SD card. I think that's a bit of a shame. A full-size SD card would have been better in a 17-inch laptop, but at least we've got one there. And a further two USB 3 ports. And then finally another vent on that side for the exhaust. And on the rear, we've actually got ports on the rear. We've got an HDMI 2, a mini display port, a Thunderbolt 3, and this also supports power delivery via charging. But if you do use that, bear in mind you're only going to get about 65 watts. So it'll only be good for office work. It certainly won't be good to game on whilst you're charging it. This over here is the Alienware amplifier. So this is another way of adding an external GPU other than the Thunderbolt. With the Alienware external graphics adapter, you actually get better performance than you do with a Thunderbolt because it's a direct PCIe connection. So that is a good option, but you do need to reboot when you're using that port, whereas a Thunderbolt is more plug and play. And finally, we've got the power adapter. And on that note, whilst I'm talking about the power adapter, this is a slim and light laptop from Dell, Alienware. It is a powerful slim and light, but I just want to sort of draw your attention to the power adapter that I have received with it. So with my 17-inch slim and light laptop, I have a 330 watt power brick. This really is a brick. I don't know if this is an error, so if anyone else has the M17 R3, can you let me know if you've received this? But this seems totally overkill for a 2060 laptop. So this is 330 watts and it's big and heavy. I think that's a bit of a shame really, because you've got a sort of slim and light, or light-ish 17-inch laptop, and then a massive brick which is about the weight of an Ultrabook to chuck in your bag to go with it. But you know, maybe they needed that to power this beast. And then lastly, if we just have a quick look at the bottom, we're going to open it up in a second, but just to draw your attention, this is the nice honeycomb grill that we have at the bottom here for the air inlet for this laptop. Also, you have some nice rubber strips that go right across, which make it very secure on the table. We also have downward firing speakers. We'll talk about those in a bit. So we're going to open it up and we'll have a quick look inside. As you can see, one hand opening, you can't almost do it, not quite. This is the 17-inch version. We've already done a review of the 15-inch version. The difference with the 17-inch over the 15, we actually get a number pad as well as the normal style QWERTY chiclet keyboard. This is an amazing keyboard that Dell supplies with these laptops. If you're used to Razer Blades or you're used to chiclet keyboards, when you come to use this one, I think you'll be really impressed. It's tactile, the keys feel great. There's about, I don't know if it's about 1.5 to 1.7 millimeters of travel. It's deeper than a Razer Blade, but it's responsive and it's got a nice pressure to it. It's a really lovely keyboard to type with. Not only that, the keyboard layout is very good. Dedicated cursor keys which are slightly below the main keyboard to make it easy to locate. A page up and page down keys to the right, which is useful. Per key backlighting, so you can set individual keys for key groups if you find that useful. It's not something I've ever done. I've always just stick with a single colour, but I know a lot of people like that. We have dedicated macro keys on the top right, which you don't get with the 15-inch because obviously this has the number pad. So you can set certain macros up here to launch when you press these keys. You do that within Alienware Command Center, which we'll look at in a little while. Now the trackpad. The trackpad is very smooth, it's a good size, it's got a good click, but obviously it's your typical hinge style trackpad, so clicking at the bottom is great, but as you move up the laptop it does get stiffer. But it's certainly, for a Windows laptop, the trackpad is good. You could certainly use this without any frustration. The gestures all work as well, 2 fingers, 3 fingers, all works perfectly. Really good job with the keyboard and the trackpad on this laptop. It's, you can certainly use this and enjoy using it. A lot of gaming laptops out there, they're functional, they're powerful, but they haven't thought about all the little details like this Alienware has. We've also got the same honeycomb grille across the top. That's for more air intake. So again, keeping this laptop open is certainly the way forward so that you can get the maximum airflow from underneath and above with this laptop. And then lastly on the deck, we've got the Alienware head power button. Now this is quite nice. I love the fact that the Alienware still do this. The power button itself, you can change the colours as well within Alienware Command Center. But you'll know straight away that you'll see mine is orange. That shows that I am on battery. When I plug it in, it will turn blue, and then you'll see that I am actually on mains. A really nice feature, because if you've ever had a gaming laptop, it's so easy sometimes you accidentally, especially when the power adapter is in the back, you pull the laptop, you knock the power adapter out, your frames tank, and you're wondering what on earth is going on. Well, instantly you can see that you've switched over to battery with this laptop. It's a nice little inclusion that Alienware have done for years, and I really do like that. Now with this model, we've got the 144Hz screen. It's just over 300 nits. Very nice panel. This is the AUO model we've got with this laptop. Really impressed. It's responsive, it's crisp, it's bright. It's a really, really good panel. We didn't get the Tobii Eye version with this one. I think that only comes with the 300Hz. I've never used the Tobii Eye anyway. I think it's a bit of a waste of money, so I certainly wouldn't pay for that upgrade. And then at the top, we've got the webcam and the mics. It's all very average, as there always is with these sort of laptops. It certainly seems in this day and age, webcams are a complete afterthought. But it will work if you actually need to use it. The only thing I dislike with this year's Alienware laptops, with the M15 and M17 range, there's no Windows Hello. So that means there's no fingerprint reader, either in the power button like in the XPS, or like with the Lenovo's, they have a fingerprint reader down here. And there's also no Windows Hello facial recognition. I think that's a real shame. I think they've missed a trick here, because this is a very, very expensive premium laptop from Alienware. Most other competitors have Windows Hello, and once you've used Windows Hello, it's a really lovely feature, and you lift your laptop lid, bang, you're logged in. And when you're used to that, it's then difficult to then go back to a £2,000, £3,000 laptop, open it up and having to type in a password. And I think that's a shame, and I'm hoping that's something that Alienware rectify in next year's model. Now we have had somebody comment from our previous review and said that they are implementing Windows Hello in the Tobii version. Now I haven't got a Tobii version to test that, but I think I've got one on the way, so I will be testing that and updating if that is the case. But that is something that we will look into. Now, as I said earlier on as well, it's got down-firing speakers. They've been improved this year over last year, so the speakers are definitely better. So I'm just going to quickly fire up some royalty-free music on YouTube. This is at 30% volume, so here we go. Put your decent headset on so you get an idea of what this sounds like. So at 30%, quite good volume. It sounds very crisp, very clear. Again, like with most laptops, not a lot of bass, but they're nice speakers. If you're playing a game and you wanted to use the extra speakers, these would do quite well. I'm going to pop it up. It's up to 60% now. It's getting quite loud. It's 70%. So you can hear there that the music is very clear, very crisp, some good trebles, some good mids, but it's a little bit lacking in bass. Say it's not a major complaint, because I don't know many decent laptops other than the MacBook Pros that do a better job. But if you've bought this laptop and you're playing a game, you don't have a headset to hand, you won't be disappointed playing on the speakers on this laptop. And again, it's also certainly serviceable for watching some YouTube videos or podcasts on this machine. Now, so before I go into the performance section, I just want to do a quick talk on the battery life on this machine. In the Alienware M17 R3 that we reviewed recently, that came with a 300 Hz panel, and that did not have any integrated graphics enabled. You had to have dedicated at all times, which meant the battery life absolutely sucked on that machine. We've got the 144 Hz panel this time. This is a much better option, and the reason for that is we've got two options with this. You can either run it dedicated with G-Sync. Now the 300 Hz does not have G-Sync, this does. So you're on dedicated with G-Sync enabled. If you're in this mode, the battery life absolutely sucks. You'll probably get 2.5 hours out of the machine. But if you press function and F7, you get a little pop-up appear in the bottom right hand side, and it will say switch to power saving mode. If you then restart, it will switch you into Optimus mode, so Intel graphics with the NVIDIA disabled until they're needed. So you'll lose G-Sync to do that, but you will gain battery life. Now when I put it into this mode, and I've tested it streaming YouTube at about 50% brightness, I was averaging about 4.5 hours battery life. So again, not amazing compared to, sort of Ultrabooks or other, MacBook Pros, but certainly for a gaming laptop, 4.5 hours, that's pretty good, especially for a 17-inch gaming laptop as well. So just to make that clear, two modes with this one. Function F7 switches you between Optimus or dedicated mode. What I do find though is dedicated mode has slightly better performance, and we will talk about that in this performance section now. The lovely thing about this laptop, although it's a slim and light laptop, Dell really let this thing run. When you're setting the different profiles within Alienware Command Center, you will notice that there are quiet, performance, balanced and full fan modes straight away, as well as you can make your own profile. Now the balanced we're going to look at first. I tested Cinebench R20 and we got a score on the balanced profile of 3,106 points. That is a great score for this 10750H processor. Now the way that Dell works with these laptops, it allows the CPU to boost its full clocks at 4.2 the majority of the time on this profile, and the temperatures will ramp right up to 100 degrees centigrade before Dell even kicks the fans in. Once they kick in, they are loud. We're going to measure those in a minute, and you can see on my decibel meter what they are measuring. But then it will let it run at 4.2 to 4 the whole way through the test, which is why we've got such a great score of 3,106 points. You've also got performance mode. Now, if you're worried about temperatures, this is the mode that you want to be in. It's a lot louder in performance mode, but what it'll basically do is it ramps the fans up much quicker than the actual balance mode. So we've got a Cinebench R20 score of 3,121 in this mode, so not a lot more. It's still boosting at the 4.2 the whole way through. It's a lot louder, but the temperatures are much more constrained. You're getting temperatures of about 80 degrees instead of 100 degrees that you're getting on balanced. The last one I want to talk about is the quiet mode, which is also quite useful if you're working in an office environment. Now in this mode, how Dell has configured this laptop, it will allow it to run flat out until it reaches 100 degrees, so it will go right up to 4.2 across the board until it reaches 100 degrees, and it pulls the wattage down to about 46 watts for the remainder of the test, with a more muted fan throughout this test, and the temperatures are more in check, and you'll get a score of 2,817 points on this test because of that 46 watt limit that it's imposed. But you've also got a much quieter laptop in this mode, so if noise is a concern to you where you're working, pop it in quiet. You're not losing that much performance, but you are gaining a much quieter laptop in the process. So that's Cinebench. We also ran PC Mark 10 on this laptop. I'm going to throw up a slide of the results here. It scored 5,469, so again a very good score. It's a good overall score. Everything's running flat out on this laptop, so you've got a decent NVMe SSD, a processor that can boost right up, and the graphics card, which is a Max P as well. It does give you some good scores. We also ran Geekbench CPU. Now this scored a single core score of 1,212 and a multi-core score of 6,069. Those are some very high scores for this processor, pretty much on par with the best of these processors, because it does allow up to about 80-85 watts on this processor to give it maximum boost clocks available. So this is why the scores are so high with this Alienware. Now moving on to the GPU side with this 2060 Max P, I ran Geekbench OpenCL, which gave us a score of 68,894. Again, that's a pretty respectable score. We've also got a TimeSpy score, now this is in balanced mode because there's not much difference I found between them, of 6,879. That's got a graphics score of 6,800 and a CPU score of 7,363. That's an amazing CPU score for this processor and a very good graphics because it's a Max P 2060. Now the thing you'll find with the 2060s is they're not all created equal. They've got different power budgets that manufacturers can allow to their graphics card. Dell have given it a full 115 watts, which I believe is the maximum you can give a 2060. So if you're looking at the performance of over other 2060s, this will be performing among the top of all 2060s in a laptop. Really respectable scores for 2060s and right up to a lot of 2017 Max P scores. Firestrike, we got a score of 15,967 with a graphics score of 17,441, a physics score of 18,639 and a combined score of 8,637. Again, like the TimeSpy, this was running balanced and these are some really good results because of the way that Dell just lets this machine absolutely fly. There's not much thermal throttling at all with this one and that's why we've got such good results. Now the last graphics benchmark we ran was Unigine Valley. This was the Extreme HD preset and we got a score of 3,249 points and an FPS of 77.6. Again, these are some fantastic results for this laptop for a 2060. This is really impressive. This will be beating a lot of 2070 Max Qs out there that are throttled. These are expensive laptops from Alienware and they are thinner lights, but they've got really good performance with the vapor chamber cooling that they have put in these laptops. So with regards to software on this laptop, the good thing with the Alienware laptops, they come with absolutely minimal bloatware, just a few bits and pieces you get with the Windows installed itself, so we can't blame Dell for that. And the other software that they include with their laptops is the Alienware Command Center. Now this is the piece of software where you can control most of the actual lighting and thermal output of this machine. So I'm going to give you a quick overview. It does look very nice, but it isn't my favourite piece of software because I do find it a little bit cumbersome at times. But you have a light mode and a dark mode. Within here you'll see we've got Home, Library, FX and Fusion. This home screen is quite good. You can on the fly quickly change whether you've got an overclock set, you can set that on. You can change your thermal performance, so you can have it either on cool, quiet, full speed, and it starts on balanced. Then you have your audio profiles, so you can have that on Alienware, movie, racing, etc. And then you have your power, high performance and balance. That pretty much just overrides the Windows one, so you probably won't really use that, I wouldn't have thought. Now on the next tab over we've got library, and what you can basically do is it will scan your games drives and pop all your games in here, or you can add them manually, and you can set specific profiles to individual games. Next we have the FX. So we can change the colour, which is per key, backlighting on the keyboard, the power button, or we can change the colours on the alien head and the Tron ring at the back. That's all controllable via the FX tab. So we'll take a very quick look before we move on to the Fusion. But we have an option, we can dim the lights, which is quite nice. So if it's at the night time and you don't want it too bright, or you can click Go Dark, which turns all the lights off for the system. Or we can quickly change either the keyboard colours from within here. And you can change all keys, function keys, numbers, or you can click the keys you want to change. And we can change from here the other areas. We've also got the macro function here. This here is where you set the macros for the A, B, C, D above the number pad on this model. Now that's quite nice with the 7-inch, you've got those macro keys. I don't believe there are any macro keys on the 15. Now moving on to the last tab, we have Fusion, and in this tab, this is sort of our monitoring and overclocking tab. So within here, we can see all our temperatures and speeds of the fans, the processors, the graphics and the memory. You can overclock the graphics card with this model. Obviously, because this is a locked CPU and the RAM is also locked, you won't be overclocking any of those. But if you have the Area 51M or if you have an unlocked processor, you can obviously overclock the CPU in here as well. So it's quite nice, it's all under one roof. You can also customize the fans within this section. So it's a useful bit of software, but I do find it a little bit cumbersome. So here we are running Times by Benchmark. I just want to give you an idea of how loud the fans are. So I'm going to be running my decibel meter on my phone whilst the fans have ramped up behind me, and you might be able to hear the fans, but you will definitely be able to see the decibel readings. So I am going to go quiet. Now this is the balanced profile. You can see it's about 48 to 50 decibels. So, this is balanced. It is reasonably loud for a laptop. But again, we're calling full power CPU and GPU to do this. So I've now switched it to performance mode. I'm going to go quiet. We can see what the fans are like. So you can see we're running at about 50 decibels in performance mode, which is pretty much the same. The biggest difference is that you're constantly running at 50 decibels. It doesn't fluctuate, whereas the balance will only run at 50 decibels when that heat gets right up. So you're going to get better temperatures in the actual performance mode for sure. Okay, so to open this laptop, it's very straightforward. We've got screws that come straight out of the laptop here, just Phillips head, and then you've got captive screws. You've got 2 in the middle and 4 at the front. And then once you've undone the captive screws, you can just put your fingers underneath and just prise it up. When we're inside, you can see we've got a nice big 86 watt-hour battery across here, the 2 down-firing speakers. But more importantly, this is our SSD installed here with a nice copper plate on there. We've got another 80mm M.2 PCIe slot here. And we've also got a 2230, so 30mm SSD slot here. So you can have up to 3 SSDs, but bear in mind if you do that, this one here will need to be a 30mm. They come in lower capacities, so just make a note of that. So they've changed the motherboard slightly. It's got the vapor chamber cooler, but it's easier to see it all, but there's nothing you can do with it. And the Wi-Fi card is soldered on, and the RAM is soldered on. So make sure when you're buying this laptop, you buy it with the amount of RAM that you need. SSDs you can change, RAM you need to have the right amount when you buy it. Okay, so conclusion then with this laptop. I've always been a big fan of Alienware and I love the design aesthetics. This range of M15 and M17 I find absolutely amazing looking laptops. I really love the design and the aesthetics of these, so I'm always drawn to the Alienwares. Comes in the Lunar White, which we've got here, and it also comes in a Dark Side of the Moon, which is a sort of it's more of a darker grey than jet black, but they both look brilliant. This year the Lunar Light has got an improved coating, so apparently it won't discolour, because I know that the previous years did discolour after a while. Obviously we haven't been able to test that fully yet, because that's going to come with time, but if that works, I think this is a beautiful colour to look at, and if it stays this colour, I'd be very happy choosing this colour for me personally. It looks great. It's also, for a 17-inch, very portable, reasonably light, and easy to pick up and move around. Now, I wasn't as impressed with the 15-inch because I think there's a lot of other 15-inches around with great battery life. The 15-inch we had a 300Hz screen with terrible battery life, and it performed very well, but it was more of a stationary laptop in a 15-inch shell, and I felt that they could have done better with the 15-inch. With regards to a 17-inch, you're less likely to be portable, or as portable with a 17-inch. You're less likely to be using this on your lap and therefore need the battery life. I find with 17-inch laptops you're more likely to be moving from room to room with them, or taking them from place to place, popping them on a desk and using them as a desktop replacement. And I think that's why I actually prefer the 17-inch in this range, because the battery life, even when you switch it on to Optimus, you get 4.5 hours, which is okay. But with this laptop, I would so rarely use battery life. I'm not so bothered about battery life. I'm going to be putting it in, plugging it in, and using it to its fullest potential. And I think that's where these come into their own. Dell doesn't throttle them. It does let them get hot, and some people might be uncomfortable with that, but you can obviously change the performance mode or full fan mode to keep those temperatures more in check, obviously with that increased fan noise. But it does give you a laptop that runs at full speed. You're running at the full 4.2 gigahertz on this processor for the majority of the time, which, having used razor blades that constantly cap it down to sort of 35, 45 watts on the CPU, having it run at 85 watts solidly to give it maximum performance is unheard of in a slim and light laptop, so this is very impressive. Also, the 2060, it's so nice to get a 115 watt 2060, so I don't feel like I'm getting a machine with a throttled GPU like you do if you're buying a Razer Blade 2060, or a Max Q 2060. We're getting a full 115 watts, and it shows in the performance when you're on the heels of a 2070 using this 2060. That does come with expensive fan noise. This is quite a loud laptop, but if you're buying a gaming laptop, you probably are used to a fair bit of fan noise. I've had the Area 51M last year, and that was bulky in comparison, but quite quiet for a gaming laptop. This is quite loud, but you have the option. You can put it into quiet mode. You're then going to get it throttled, but you're going to have a much quieter laptop if you're in an environment where you want to be running it in a quieter mode. It is a solid package. It's got great heft. You can lift it around. There's no creaks. It feels really well built. It's got a fantastic screen. It's got good speakers, and this keyboard, absolutely amazing. I think Dell have put together a solid package for this gaming notebook, and it would be high on my list of a laptop to buy if I was looking for a gaming laptop at the moment for myself. I'm going to give it a couple of little knocks. One, no Windows Hello. I think that's a real shame when you're paying this much money for a laptop not to give you the option of Windows Hello. That's a real shame. I think Dell have been a bit stingy there. I think they could have certainly put in a fingerprint in the power button, or at least the facial recognition up the top. Secondly, soldered RAM. I don't know why Dell think that it's okay to solder the RAM in on these machines. They said they needed to do it because it's so slim, but there, as I said in the 15 review, the XPS 15 and 17 have RAM that you can upgrade and is much thinner than this laptop, equal with vapor chamber cooling and decent cooling solutions. So that's not really an excuse in my eyes. And lastly, the power brick. The 330 watt power brick with this laptop is an absolute monster. They've been using the same 330 watt power brick for about the last 8 or 9 years, and I feel it's about time that they pulled their finger out and actually looked at re-engineering it and making it more compact. They did it with 180 watt and a 240 watt. There's some 29-inch more rounded, smaller versions. They could certainly do it for this 330 watt. I feel it's very lazy that they've left us with that absolute monster brick. So you've bought a slim and light laptop with a monster power brick to go with it. So Dell, come on, pull your finger out. Either give us a slightly lower power rating, because you don't need 240 watt with a 2060, or redesign that brick and give us a more portable solution with a portable laptop. But overall, a very, very, very solid package from Dell, and a big thumbs up. Really good machine. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this review of this Alienware M17 R3. Please subscribe and hit the notification bell if you want to see further content, because we will be doing a comparison video with the M15 R3 so you can see the size differences, and we will also be doing a comparison video with a Razer Blade Pro, again so you can see a Razer Slim and Light versus the Alienware Slim and Light, see how they perform against each other. Thank you for watching.